So we're back with episode 7 of the Safety Car for Dummies series. And we're going to take a look at the 2013 Singapore Grand Prix. I was going to try and make this a short one, but I need to show you what Martin Brundle was saying there, because Captain Bullshit is back up to his antics. Before I get into this one, it was the 2023 Dutch Grand Prix today. Sure many of you will have seen it. I saw part of it. I tuned in for the start of the race, a little bit of the build-up. Was a bit astounded by what I was hearing when they were saying that Lewis Hamilton was on the medium compound tyres when most of the rest of the field were on softs. I guess the explanation given was that they wanted him to go a bit longer, and when everybody pitted, he'd make a few places up. But they're also telling us the weather forecast and that they're expecting rain. And that told me straight away, what on earth are you doing, Mercedes? Because if you're expecting rain, when that rain comes, you're going to be changing tyres. And if that's going to be earlier in the race, what are you putting mediums on? Because you're not going to get the benefit of staying out longer. So what you needed to be on was softs right from the start to get the best start off the line. Obviously, make as many places up in the first instance you can on track. They are also better because they heat up quicker. They're better with grip if you do get some light rain. So straight away I was thinking, what are Mercedes doing again? Watch the race. Well, say watch the race. Watch the start of the race. And on lap 1, it's heavy rain. It's heavy rain as they're halfway round lap 1, I believe it was. And knowing that Hamilton started so far down the field and looking at how heavy it was raining, straight away I was shouting, pit him then. Pit him. Right? Get him on them tyres as one of the first drivers on there, and with it raining as heavy as that, then he's going to have the advantage. What did they do? Nothing. What did Red Bull do with Perez? And then within a couple of laps, Perez was in the lead. So at that stage, I just switched it off because I'm sick and tired of Mercedes-Benz being absolutely dog shit with their strategy. And I've contacted the team. I've told them their strategist is shit and I could do a job that was 10 times better, but you hear nothing. So you're intent on losing. You're intent on losing because you're shit at decision making. Simple as that. You know, this is basics. This is stuff that you call out real time. I bet you several of you that are watching this now, I bet you're having the same thing. It's basics. You know, it's simple. And they just make stupid decisions all the time. It's ridiculous. I then turned it back on later on, just in time for when it started raining again. And who was it that crashed? Somebody crashed and they red flagged it. And then what I noticed was, before resuming racing, what did they do? Now, bearing in mind, when you've red flagged it, you can sort out the order, you can put the cars in whatever order you want, you know, you haven't got to mess around. What did they do? Did they send the lapped cars around the track first to get them to the back of the pack so that they could resume that race in the correct order with the equivalent spacing between each and every competitor? I wonder why they would do that. And this shit that Brundle always gives us about, oh, why don't they just drop them back? I'd prefer that. Well, could that be to do with fuel load? The fact that all the cars cover the same number of laps to burn the same amount of fuel, rather than, say, just drop them back. And these cars are either dropped back a lap, which they shouldn't be, or even if you've negated the fact that they've dropped a lap and just say, oh, well, we'll say that you're on the same lap as everybody. They've got a different fuel load to everybody. So they make them cover that lap for the fuel load. Obviously, with it being a red flag, they could have changed tyres. But normally in the safety car conditions, it's the fact that whatever tyres they're on or whatever tyres have changed to, it's making sure them tyres do the same amount of laps as the other competitors. So there's no advantages in terms of the rules interfering with giving them artificial advantages. So these rules are all about sporting fairness and making sure as soon as a race is neutralised or stopped due to a safety incident, then that applies to all competitors. All competitors have to stop racing. Okay, it's neutralised. They all have to stop racing. So in order to resume racing, the conditions have to be met so that they're the same for all competitors in order to resume racing. That is why the rules are what they are. Now, I could explain that 300 times and 95% of you would get it, but the strap-on fans would still try and argue it differently. They don't have any examples that would counter me. They haven't got any evidence. They've got no reasoning. They can't interpret the rules, but I'm the one that's wrong, not them. The only thing they've got is Abu Dhabi. And we're saying this is where they're completely cheated, and they've never told the public, they've never told the world the reason. No press has. No media has. And it falls on me to explain what it should be going on and why is it? Why is nobody saying this? Why is nobody saying this? Because it's pretty straightforward. Crofty even explained part of the rules, and he even said, I remember Crofty saying at some point, yeah, the FIA are always going to prioritise safety. And then I think he said something like, I'm not saying it's right, but that's what they do. What do you mean, Crofty? You're not saying it's right that they prioritise safety. If I can find the clip, I'll get the exact wording. But I listened to it and I was thinking, what are you even saying, man? What are you even saying? Anyway, you know, we're going to get the normal, the consistent rubbish in the comment section, but I'm not going to tolerate the rubbish comments, because ultimately I can't be doing with the misinformation being presented in the comment section, because sometimes, and these strap-on fans know this, sometimes what will happen is before even watching a video through, some people will read the comments to determine whether they want to watch the video. And if they start reading these undermining comments by the strap-on fans, which is this is their strategy. If I get my comment there early enough, people will read my comment and then not bother to watch the evidence. That's what they try to achieve. Okay, so if I see these comments now, I'm going to delete them. You start coming out with misinformation the same way as this sport has misinformed people, you're going to get your comment deleted. Because if you don't know what you're talking about and you're talking shit, I'm not going to have it on this channel for you to misinform. Make up your own channel and misinform as many people as you like, okay? And people will start laughing at you for being the twat that you are. Simple as that. Anyway, 2013 Singapore Grand Prix. Now, look at the picture. Unfortunately, it's not a Red Bull. I think this is the Alpha Tauri at the time, or Toro Rosso, whatever they were back then. Daniel Ricciardo's gone into this barrier at this corner. Now, we've seen cars go into this barrier at this corner before. I think it happened the previous year, and we've seen it on other Grand Prix as well. I'm going to try and minimise the number of clips I show, because F1 TV are monitoring this channel, and they are going to try and get the videos blocked on copyright as much as they can. So I've got to minimise the clips, but I need to try and show you the things that Brundle's saying, because Brundle is full of shit. Now, a few races earlier in the season, the German Grand Prix, when Mark Webber was a lap behind, and not only was he a lap behind, he was at the back of the field, even a lap down. So there was no chance of him interfering with the race between the leaders. He wasn't interfering at all. He was a lap down and still right at the back. And when they released him, Brundle and Crofty didn't say a word. They explained that this is what they've got to do. This is what's got to happen. No qualms about any of it. And once a Red Bull that's at the back of the pack is being allowed to do it, they just tell you, oh, this is what you've got to do. Listen, a few races later in the season, how they're describing it. Total switch around from these hype jobs. Absolute hype jobs. But I'm going to evidence it in this video as we go through. So, Daniel Ricciardo gone into this barrier, and let's try and listen to what they say.
Daniel Ricciardo in the Toro Rosso, and it's down at turn 18.
And Brundle says...
Guaranteed safety car there, I'd have thought.
Guaranteed safety car. So this is lap 25, and then they cut to the pits to show us the safety car actually coming out.
Last, Come to Grief has had his race ended, and it is time to see the safety car.
So what you then see, you can sort of hang around for a little bit there. Was it almost waiting on the timing to make sure it like hits the track at the point where it's going to pick up the leader? That would make most sense. That would be the best way of doing it. You know, you've got track of you. You know, you can see where the leader's coming round. You can time the deployment of that car to pick up the leader straight away. Okay, that's the best way of deploying the safety car. Anyway, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to try and fast forward to where I can, but there's some really important stuff you need to hear.
He's hit the Tech Pro there, but I don't think they'll be too worried about repairing that.
Brundle says he's hit the Tech Pro there. I don't think they'll be too worried about repairing that. Now, bearing in mind with 2013, over the years, health and safety concerns become more stringent. This is the evolution of consideration towards safety. All right. If we've seen numerous cars crash in that position, so it's not beyond possibility that later on in this race, another car could crash into that barrier at that same point on track. These barriers are there for a reason. They are there to absorb the energy of an impact. If those have been damaged by an impact and they no longer function to do their job, the next car that goes and hits them, they're not going to absorb it in the same way, and therefore there could be far more damage done to that driver. Now, back in 2013, they probably didn't consider it like that. But now they do. And they have done like that for a few years. This is, like I say, the evolution of both knowledge and consideration to these safety concerns. So, what Brundle is saying might have been relevant back then, but it's not relevant now on the grounds that if a barrier has taken a significant hit, you need to check that barrier to ensure that it's going to do that same function again, should it be needed to do that same function again. Okay, so it is important that the barriers are checked for their functionality, and if they're not going to do it, that's when they need repairing. And this is why we're told in Saudi Arabia, when they red flagged the race, it was to repair the barriers because they were in the sort of condition which meant they wouldn't have done the job that they were supposed to do should there be another incident right there. So, again, I'm trying to tell you stuff so that you understand and so that you can start understanding the processes. I stopped it a bit earlier. I want you to hear what Brundle fully said.
Full house, isn't it? He's hit the Tech Pro there, but I don't think they'll be too worried about repairing that before they release the cars again. The crowd goes...
Before they release the cars again. All right? So straight away, you know, Brundle's back about resuming racing straight away, isn't he? Oh, and we're going to be resuming racing straight away. I don't have to worry about the barriers before resuming racing. This is just the start of Brundle's bullshit. And Brundle makes a lovely statement here.
It was his left front log that just took away 20-30% of his retardation.
Well, that 20 or 30% of his retardation has been passed on to the strap-on boys, hasn't it? That was just for our fan Chasman, because I know he likes to become offended by what he terms as ableist derogatory terms. Okay, that's just what it is, Chasman. That's just what it is. Or is it just calling twats retards? It's called calling twats retards, isn't it? Because they're choosing to behave like that. Anyway, they all pit. That is what happens often during safety car periods.
That really mixes it up, doesn't it? It neutralises the race in terms of these laps, but it really resets the race as well.
So it neutralises the race and it resets the race. Does it reset the race for all competitors equally, Martin? Okay, so you're telling people what it's doing, right? You're telling people what it's doing. Anyway, we're moving on. Let's have a look if this marshal comes on the track. Maybe he's got the signal, maybe he's got radio communications telling him, well, this car's coming round, but then there's a window for you to get onto the track. We don't know, but let's have a look, because I know some of you guys like to think that you can release lapped cars when there's men on the track. Those of you that don't know what you're talking about like to keep spouting that one.
Doesn't it
Here
just? And it wipes out eventually Sebastian.
But they cut away so they don't show us the actual size of that window that enables them to be on the track doing that. Okay, but this is the sport. This is what we know is actually happening, but proving what is happening to convince the detractors. It's not always straightforward. Just going to play you this bit through because it will tell you that we're going to be on lap 27. But just watch the order of the car. You've got the safety car on screen. You've got Vettel in the Red Bull.
He was talking about.
You got Rosberg in the Mercedes.
And what was a third?
And then that car there, Marussia. So that is not a front-running car. That is not a car that is running third in this race. So that is a lapped car. You can see with your own eyes that in this train of cars, there is a lapped runner. Okay? And if I just play it for a second.
15-second advantage now behind the safety.
There you go, lap 27.
Safety car has come plunging down for Sebastian Vettel. So first.
Okay, so the incident was on 25. The safety car got deployed almost immediately. We're now on lap 27. These are quite long laps in Singapore. They're close to 2 minutes long. And obviously behind the safety car, they last a lot longer. Which means you have a sizable window for the recovery. So in terms of recovering Daniel Ricciardo's car and clearing up the debris and checking the barrier, the time taken often is less in terms of laps. So let's say the time taken is, let's use it for ease, 6 minutes. If it's a 2 minute lap, that's 3 laps. If it's a 1.5 minute lap, that's 4 laps. So, you know, and obviously they're just numbers that I've just used for that illustration. If it's a 10 minute clear up, or let's say 9 minute clear up, you know, if it's a 2 minute lap, which means it's a 3 minute lap under the safety car, therefore it means you're talking 3 laps. If it's a 1.5 minute lap, which means it's a 2.5 minute lap under the safety car, then you're talking 4 laps again. So what we're seeing here is the explanation of the number of laps it's likely to take to get the incident cleared up before we can then begin the procedure to restart racing. And that procedure is releasing the lap cars, giving them the opportunity to make it around the track and catch the back of the pack, and then resuming racing. Okay, achieving the conditions that make resuming racing fair to every competitor, because every competitor has had their race stopped, it's been neutralised, and in order to restart, they've all got to be subject to the same conditions. That's the way it goes. That's the way it works. So, back in the day, they used to cut to race control. You know, Michael Massey in that little hut on his own with just 2 phones. One with Toto getting in his ear, telling him that he shouldn't be deploying safety cars, and the other with Horner on the phone, telling him they only need 1 racing lap. And he's there under so much pressure, not knowing what to do. Or is he just in this air-conditioned room with himself, with this dude next to him, with this dude here? There's a head there, there's a head there. There's this one behind him, there's one there. There's somebody here with a lanyard. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bodies there. At least 8 people in race control, FIA employees, people that know what is going on, know the rules of the sport. They all know in there what's going on. If you work in that environment, you know what is going on. So those 10 people in the room with Michael Massey knew what was going on in Abu Dhabi. So see, they pan round.
Because he hasn't stopped, so he's 7th now.
Yeah, so just the 1 stop for...
We'll see what else Brundle has to say. So we're approaching the end of lap 27. And Brundle says this, and bear in mind, a few races ago in Germany, didn't worry whatsoever when Mark Webber, the Red Bull driver, was released from the back of the pack, not interfering with anybody, not in the way of anybody, but released and given 2 laps to make it around. 2 full laps beyond the lap that he was released on. Didn't say a word, Brundle. Listen to what Brundle says now.
So they're going to let the lap cars through, which is annoying.
So they're going to let the lapped cars through, which is annoying. So they're going to let the lapped cars through, which is annoying. Why are you annoyed by giving fair conditions to those competitors, Martin? Because before this safety car was deployed, the car that this Marussia was challenging might have been just about at this position on the track. But now he's all the way back around here at the end of the snake. You find it annoying not to give this Marussia the chance of actually gaining all that ground back on him so you can be in a race with him. You're just dirty. Let's just see if he carries on with his bullshit again.
So that's Chilton, Bianchi, Ricciardo stopped. So 2 cars, the 2 Marussias.
That's Chilton and Bianchi. You said that straight away, Brundle. You know, you didn't have to manually identify that. How come you had that information instantly accessible? Because you're telling us in Abu Dhabi that, oh, it's, you know, it's not as easy as you think, you know. Because you're a liar. Because you're a liar and you're gaslighting people. So you can see the counter at the top of the screen clicking on to lap 28. That's how close we were to the end of that. So the lapped cars are actually going to pass the leader on lap 28.
Are allowed through, so we've got to wait for that to unravel.
She'll be...
And bearing in mind, this is a long lap, 2 minutes long under normal circumstances, and they've been given the instruction to pass pretty much at the end of lap 27, which means they should be passing early on lap 28. So lap 29 has got to be that mandatory safety car lap, which means they should be able to go racing on lap 30. They should be able to go racing on lap 30. But they should have been given more than a lap and a half with which to then regain that ground and catch the back of the pack, which hopefully will be sufficient. And again, on some shorter tracks, you know, they might need 2 laps. But on a longer track, the speed differential beyond that safety car, because you can go that much faster once you've been released, then you can, you know, with it lapping slow over a long lap, you might need less laps to catch it. If you kind of get my drift, I could probably illustrate that better in a future video. But what I'm saying is that because they've been released early in the lap, or they will have passed the safety car early in lap 28, then they've got the remainder of lap 28 and the whole of lap 29, and within that time, it's likely they will have probably made it to the back of the pack. So they've just gone through, this is about turn 2, turn 3 of the lap. Okay, so you come down the start finish straight, there's a bit like of a chicane, and then you go around this turn. You've got this notification on screen saying lapped cars may now overtake, even though Brundle had already announced it before this came up on screen. Let's just see when they do. I'll see if I can show you where they do.
Yeah, that means we're going to have maybe, what, another couple of laps behind the safety car?
Crofty, that means we're maybe going to have a couple of laps behind the safety car. What do you know, Crofty? What do you know? Is it that you know the rules? It's not. And how long will they wait? And how long will they wait? Or is it, yeah, you know, now that they're allowed to overtake, it means we're going to have maybe a couple of laps behind the safety car? Yeah? Yeah? So you do know. So you do know. And you did know back in 2013, because you're not giving us the, and how long will they wait? Bullshit. You know what the procedure is. You know what they do, because that's the rules of the sport. But Brundle's gaslighting everybody. But you know what? You're going to hear what Brundle knows shortly.
Well, they like them to get a little bit down the road, but then all that does is...
They like them to get a little bit down the road. No, Martin, that's not what they let Mark Webber do, was it, a few weeks ago at the German Grand Prix? Was it letting Mark Webber go a little bit down the road? Or was it allowing him to get all the way around the track and catch the back of the pack? So you're giving us the bullshit again, Brundle.
And start to rehearse, restart in your mind what you're going to do.
Team radio, and then we get back the bullshitters.
See, Sebastian just soaks that up, whether he plays any...
Let me fast forward to it. So, here we are, not long after. This is one of the lapped cars coming by the leader in the safety car, and Brundle's about to talk again.
Puts the two Marussias straight back in the firing line for the blue flags.
All this does is put the two Marussias back in the firing line for the blue flags. What kind of bullshit are you talking about, Brundle? They've got half of this lap, and they've got another full lap with which to get a long way clear of this. They're not in the firing line for the blue flags. What are you trying to convince the global audience of with your lies? Right? Why are you lying? You are the commentator of the sport. Why can you not simply educate the fans with what is going on in accordance with the rules of the sport? You don't get somebody commentating on a football match going, oh, they're not going to play the offside rule in this game, are they? I mean, I don't think it's mandatory. You know, that man stand on the side there with that flag that he waves now and again. Doesn't that just like mean the game has to stop now and again? And we all just want to watch football, don't we? We all just want to see the action. So, you know, I don't think they necessarily have to play that. See, you don't get that, Martin, because football commentators don't bullshit the way you're bullshitting about the rules of Formula One. And you do know them. You do know them, but you're gaslighting. You're filthy. You're absolutely filthy. I'm not going to fast forward. I don't want to miss what he's saying.
It does. It depends, doesn't it, how far they let them get down the road. If they join right up to the back of the pack.
Yeah.
Oh, it depends how far they let them get down the road. If they join right up to the back of the pack, well, why are you saying that? Are you saying that because that's what you normally see? Yeah? Because that's what you normally see. And if you normally see that, why are they doing that? It's not clicked that it's actually giving them the same conditions as every other driver in that race for that race to restart. Because like I say, you can be in that race, you can be driving your car, you can be racing that competitor that you're trying to challenge in front of you. But the leader comes round because he's got a super Red Bull that's 2 seconds a lap faster than everything else, and that leader overtakes you. Doesn't mean you're eliminated from that race. Not at all. Right? You're still trying to chase that car that's in front of you. But the leader's come and lapped you. He's come and overtaken you. If something then happens that's a safety concern and race control says, right, safety car, what happens is you have to stay where you are. The safety car comes out in front of the race leader who's just in front of you. But the competitor that you were trying to chase down, he can disappear off into the distance all the way around the track, leaving you effectively a lap behind that person that you were challenging. You cannot just go, right, we're carrying on racing now, we'll carry on, right, off we go. Where does it leave you? Where does it leave you? It pretty much fixes your position, because there is no way you're going to catch up the best part of a lap to get on that guy's tail again, or that driver's tail again. It fixes the outcome for you. The only way you get a higher position than that is if drivers start retiring, because you're not left in a position that you can challenge for positions. It fixes positions. It fixes outcomes. Hence, that is why the rules have evolved. And Brundle Lee, I want you to, I'll wait until Brundle actually says it, and then I'll go through it there.
I mean, it's good news for Marussia because it puts them back in the fight with Caterham.
Well, you said it there, Brundle, didn't it? It is good news for Marussia because it puts them back in the fight with the cars that they were previously fighting with. As I said, just because the leader may have come round and overtaken you doesn't mean you're no longer allowed to be in the fight with the cars that you were fighting with. Right? So you've just explained it. And it's quite easy just to say to the audience, the watching public, this is why they do it, and this is what it's for. And it's only right that they do it, because it's only right that they give fair conditions to every competitor. Because you know what? That's what rules are there for. What do you think rules are in both sport and in life are there for? Fairness to everybody. Them rules apply to everybody. They don't just apply to the rich or to the poor or to the whites or to the blacks, to the English or to the Americans or to the Brazilians. They apply to us all. What is right, what is wrong, applies to us all. That is key. That is key. But what we're finding is, in general life, some of the rules don't seem to be applying to certain people in society. Certain rules are being broken. And they're telling us, oh, there's no consequence for that. Just accept that there's no consequence for these rules being broken. There's nothing you can do about it. Just accept it. Move on. Just accept it. Move on. Nobody can do anything. They've made the decision that they're not going to punish themselves. So there's nothing that you can do about it. Move on. That's what they want you to believe. And they've got their media to tell you that's what you believe. You believe that because that's what we're telling you. But that's not how it is. But then they're controlling the people that would give them the punishment. When it's your own court, when it's your own policing service, your own law enforcement and they don't enforce the laws on you, that's where you get corruption. That's where you get systematic corruption. That's where the laws they apply to you and me, but they don't apply to them. And they're the billionaires, but the poor people down at the bottom, yeah, the rules apply to you. They apply to you. If you do that, you'll get in trouble. Oh, but they don't apply to us. That's what rules are there for. They apply to everybody.
But just especially on a long, 3.1 mile slowish circuit, it presumably they let them get sort of half a lap away.
Presumably, right, you're presuming, Martin, right, you're presuming. Don't do that, I've told you before. When you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you and umption, right? Don't presume. Presume they're going to let them get half a lap away. Why would you presume that, Martin? Because you didn't see that in 2012 and the 4 times that he did it. You didn't see it twice this season, both at Monaco and Germany, okay, when you saw this procedure being carried out there. So you've seen it 6 times within the season and a half. Why would you presume the 7th time it would be different?
So for the 4th time this season then, we...
You can use the fuel. We have more fuel than we need. Use the fuel.
The fuel is, marginal.
They're saying for the 4th time this season. What's Crofty going to say?
Quite critical here, but they often fuel with a safety car in mind, and kind of expecting it to come.
Tell you what, next.
It might be the 4th safety car deployment, because there was a safety car deployment at Silverstone. I might have to go back into these and then redo this. I might have missed one where they've got this unlapping procedure. I've had this down as the 3rd race of 2013 where they did the unlapping procedure, but it might be the 4th. Don't know.
Next year a safety car will be far more significant, won't it? We'll see them scamper off after that when they've got a lot more.
So they're talking about the fact that the following year, 2014, is where you've got, I think, 100 kilograms of fuel. That's a new rule coming in where every team has to make it through the Grand Prix distance on 100 kilograms of fuel. They've not got in-race refuelling as of 2014.
Power available, but we won't be hearing too much of that next year, I don't think. And they're limited to 40% less fuel than they'll use.
Well, whether in-race refueling is there or not, I can't remember.
Use in this Grand Prix is what they've got next year here. 100 kilos.
Yeah, 100 kilos. And a lot more energy recovery as well. Well, if you caught Ted's piece, earlier this week about engines, power units.
Right, I found this bit, so it clarifies the fact it's the 4th time this year that the safety car is being used. So I think the other time was Silverstone, where I don't think from what I saw that there were lapped cars in situ. A car had been lapped, but then Vettel pitted, and whilst he was in the pits, that lapped car went by and unlapped itself. So therefore, there were no more lapped cars at that stage, and then an accident occurred, causing the safety car.
Next year, but this is the 4th time this year we've had a safety car. The day before, Martin, the 40th anniversary of the first ever usage of a safety car in Formula 1.
So it's been used for quite some time.
Kind of fitting that we're here.
I think, if I remember right, it was chaotic as well.
I think it was chaotic as well, that first safety car deployment 40 years ago. Now tell us, Brundle, now tell us what you're going to say.
The system wasn't really honed and fine-tuned and understood like it is now.
It picked up the wrong...
The system wasn't honed and fine-tuned like it is now. The system was not honed and fine-tuned like it is now. So, what we understand is there's an evolutionary process. Okay? They look at what is going on, they work out if they can do it better, if they can make sure it's fairer to all competitors. They might realise that they're doing something that's not correct, it's not right. So what do? They change the regulations regarding it. Those regulations are published to all teams, so all teams are aware of what the regulation state is going to happen in a safety car situation. These commentators need to make themselves familiar with what those rules are, so that they can explain what is going on when it is going on to inform the public.
Wrong leader, sadly. Well, not for Peter Revson. He could make up nearly a full lap, and he went on to win the race.
Right, I'm just trying not to get this blocked by using too much of their footage. But Crofty just said then, back the first time, that some guy got the chance to make up nearly a full lap, and he went on to win the race. So he knows that about what happened 40 years ago. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Celebrating then 40 years of the safety car in Formula One here in Singapore tonight.
Celebrate good times. Come on. So there's been quite a period of time since the lapped cars made it past the safety car. We're now on lap 29. Alright, so they will have passed the safety car in the first half of lap 28. So we're now on lap 29, which is that mandatory lap given by the race director with which to allow those released cars the chance of making it around the track to the back of the pack. This is what we know. Right, so they cut to Ted Kravitz in the pits, and at this race they'd got some kind of heat signature cameras pointing at the cars, showing you the temperatures of the tyres as they were going around corners and things. So they're showing that bit of footage. Ted is talking.
I think we're looking at actually a 57 lap race now.
So because the pace has been slowed down and the time elapsed for each lap is longer, it reduces the number of laps in the race.
Some basic maths, and I think we're certainly not going to go to 61 under this safety car with its interminable letting people overtake business. So
with this interminable letting people overtake business. So there's somebody else from Sky Sports. Okay? So I'm pretty sure it was Sky Sports that had got the contract back then. I don't know who they're employed by. Was it? I don't know. I'm guessing Sky Sports. But it's the same crew. It's Crofty, it's Brundle, it's Kravitz, whoever's employing them, gassing people up. Okay? Not explaining the rules, but instead giving it the hype job. It's pretty easy to explain to people what's going on, to inform people, to educate people, so that it gives you knowledgeable people. But the downside of having knowledgeable people is you can't dupe them. You can't pull the wool over their eyes. It's not so easy to get away with lying to them if you tell them how things should be. Strange that, isn't it? Strange.
I think we're looking at 58, and I tell you what, that might mean that people like Raikkonen don't have to stop again. I would have thought if they could go from now.
Don't think, Ted, don't think. Right, we're back with Brundle's bullshit. We're back with Brundle's bullshit. Okay? So, bearing in mind, the lapped cars were given the notification, or we found out that the notification was going to be given on lap 27. We know that those didn't pass the leader and the safety car until the early part of lap 28, which means that we know that these days, the way the rules are written, there has to be a mandatory safety car lap, which is lap 29, which means they should be able to go racing on lap 30. Okay, listen to what Brundle's now saying.
Chilton's about 4 corners behind the pack, but this is a rubbish regulation. They dropped this out for a while, and then it was.
This is a rubbish regulation. Okay, let me just rewind that, and we'll go through it again.
Yeah, now they've got less fuel, but judging by how they fell apart early on, Chilton's about 4 corners behind the pack, but this is a rubbish regulation. They dropped.
This is a rubbish regulation. They dropped
this out for a while, and then it was reintroduced of letting the lap runners catch right back up.
They dropped it out for a while, then it was reintroduced of letting the runners catch right back up. Why? Do you want to tell us why, Martin? Do you want to tell the fans the reason why a regulation might have been dropped and then reintroduced. Could it have been the realisation of the impact of that regulation and the fact that they realised some competitors were left disadvantaged by not releasing them, and therefore a safety incident ruining their race, when everybody else, there were other competitors who made massive gains, and some competitors left massively disadvantaged the way that a regulation was written. And hence they're like, well, we can't have that, so therefore we need to reintroduce that. The evolution of knowledge, the evolution of rules that was known about back for the start of the 2012 season. And we're in 2013, the second season after the reintroduction. I'm going to just take this back 10 seconds again. Let's have a listen to what this Brundle said in full.
About 4 corners behind the pack, but this is a rubbish regulation. They dropped this out for a while, and then it was reintroduced of letting the lap runners catch right back up. Let's go racing.
Yeah. I think Chilton might be.
Let's go racing. Let's go racing. Let's just ignore some of the competitors and let's just go racing. You didn't say that when Mark Webber in Germany was at the back of the pack, a lap down, released, given 2 laps to make it round to the back of the pack, and then they went racing, and Webber ended up coming about 6th or 7th. You weren't too desperate to let's go racing then, were you? Crofty's got something to say.
Now just going onto the Esplanade Bridge, whilst the car ahead of him, Charles Pic, is 2 corners ahead, but he's still got Bianchi to catch up with Chilton.
Switch the lights off now. It's too late now. They can't. We've got to do another one now.
It's too late now. They've got to do another one now. So we're not going to go racing on lap 30.
The lights could have gone off by now. Bianchi's obviously got a problem because he can't catch in the same way that Chilton does. We know he's been struggling with his steering wheel.
So we're going on to lap 30. This could have been, under the modern day regulations, this could have been the resumption of the race. Why has Charlie Whiting not made that safety car peel in prior to the start of this lap and go racing again? I'll tell you, because again, some of you get it wrong in the comment section. The reason is he's ensuring that those lapped cars are given the chance to make it to the back of the pack so that this race restarts in the correct order with equivalent gaps between every competitor. That is the purpose of the rules. They've now modified the rules to write into the rules that once the last lapped car has passed the leader and the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. Right? So that rule there dictates this mandatory safety car lap, one of them. But what you've got is 15.3 giving the race director his discretion to keep it out there for longer if he feels sporting fairness needs to be achieved before racing resumes. If he looks at that situation, if he looks at tracker view, if he sees where them cars are and thinks actually these released cars are going to be left massively disadvantaged still after just one lap, I'm going to keep the safety car lap in to give them that chance so that they can catch up properly and be at least closer, because otherwise they're still going to be left a half a lap down or a quarter of a lap down, and that's not fair. And they're the 4 races I've already showed you that Massey did. 2019, Spain and Brazil, where he kept the safety car out for 2 laps. The mandatory one plus an additional one, using his discretion. 2020, Sakhir and Eiffel. He did the mandatory one, then he used 15.3, his discretion, to keep it out for a further one, to enable the lapped cars to catch the back of the pack so that the race restarts in fair conditions to every single competitor. 10, at least 10 people from the FIA sitting in the race control office all know that. Michael Massey, sitting in race control, knows that. He's surrounded by people that know that. He's demonstrated that he knows that. He's done that himself 4 times. He's carried it out as the minimum on 11 other times in terms of being party to race control, either as the race director, apprentice race director, trainee race director, whatever you want to call it, under Charlie Whiting for that year. He knows. They all know. Some of these people you will see in race control, you will see them in 2019, 2020. The same people with years of experience.
To a Delta, isn't he? It's not like he can just motor, I would have thought, through the field.
Right, I'm going to try and... I'll only pick out the important things now, because again, F1 TV will want to block it. Actually, I want you to hear this, because Brundle and Crofty are talking about the speed in which these release cars can drive around the track. So listen to this, and strap on fans that keep thinking you can release lapped cars with Marshall still on the track. Listen to this.
He's also got to stick to a Delta, hasn't he?
So Crofty's saying these release cars have still got to stick to a Delta. Now, I don't know for sure what that is. I still think they've got to drive around the track under control, okay? But Crofty's saying the release cars still have to drive to a Delta. Brundle is saying this.
So it's not like he can just motor, I would have thought, through...
Sorry, that's still Crofty.
...the field.
I thought that Delta cleared once that once that it was all neutralised and the accident was out of the way. But
I thought that Delta cleared once it was all neutralised and the accident was out of the way. So what you're saying is, Brundle, you think that once the all clear has been given by the clerk of the course to say, yes, the accident has been cleared up, the track is now safe to go racing again, it's over to you, race director. And the race director goes, right, the track is now safe to go racing, all is clear, meaning there is no crash car on track, there is no debris on track, there is no damaged barriers, there are no marshals on track, it's all clear, we're good to go again. Right, let's release the lap cars, off you go, you can motor around the track now, because there's no obstacles in there that you've got to worry about, so off you go, and once you're round, we can go again. That's how it works.
right, those lights have got to go off soon.
Like I say, I'll just play anything key.
Safety car's going to come in at the end of this lap. Not a moment too soon as far as we're concerned.
So it's going to come in at the end of lap 30 and they go racing again on lap 31.
No, it's a breather we didn't need, isn't it?
Look at you. You're not talking about the rules of the sport and the fairness to all competitors. What are you doing? Hype. Conditioning people to think, oh, this is an unnecessary delay to the action, isn't it? Why are they doing this? This is an unnecessary delay. This is tedious. You know, they shouldn't be doing this. Why shouldn't they? I just told you the reasons why they do it. We're engaged in watching a sport which has rules that apply for all competitors, rules to ensure fairness to all competitors. You're not explaining that to fans. You're just saying, oh, they're silly rules, they are. I don't know why we bother with those rules. I don't know why we should be fair to all competitors. But you're quite selective, because you weren't saying that in Germany when it was Mark Webber in a Red Bull that was doing exactly the same thing. You weren't saying this then. So you can see here the safety car lights have gone out, which means Vettel will become effectively the lead car. He'll control the pace, and they'll get racing to start off for lap 31. Oh, and just before they go, they're talking about the cars weaving and warming up their tyres. Martin has this to say.
Just a little point and squirt. Can't
Point and squirt.
Too much of that.
No.
Otherwise,
It's a strap-on, boys. That's what you boys normally do, isn't it? Martin, tell us.
he breaches those regulations. You're not allowed to go like crazy and jump on the brakes.
Of course he can.
You're not allowed to go like crazy and jump on the brakes. Did you tell us that in Saudi Arabia? Did you tell us at the Saudi Grand Prix 2021? You know, the brake test, Martin? No. No, I don't think you did. I think you might have actually blamed Lewis Hamilton. Said that Lewis was trying to play a game of cat and mouse, waiting for the DRS detection zone. Yeah, so that was Lewis's fault, was it? But we'll review that at some time. We'll review that. Anyway, I am trying to keep these videos short, but they never end up that way. I've always got too much to say, but not only that, I need to show you. I need to show you what is actually factually taking place. And, you know, I'm not going to make this up. You can see it with your own eyes. You can hear it with your own ears. This is what is being done. This is what is being said. This happened in 2013. 4 races that I'm aware of. There could be more, but from looking at the data for the Grand Prix and then checking at the races, I've identified 4 races in 2012. This is the 3rd race in 2013. And I'm going to carry on. I'm going to try and make them shorter and just cut it out. But sometimes when you're hearing this shit, you need to hear it too. You need to hear it. Because it opens your eyes to the fact that Brundle and Crofty are just hype merchants. They're lying. They're lying about the rules of the sport. They're not educating people correctly about the rules of the sport. What I am saying is happening. You see happening every time. What I am saying needs to happen. You see happening every time. That isn't by chance. Is it that, oh, I'm just lucky guessing by saying the same thing every time and the same thing happens every time? Or is it they're saying different shit every time and it doesn't happen like that? Who's right and who's wrong? Who do you believe and who shouldn't you believe? Who's being consistent and who's hyping the shit out of everything, keeping people guessing? That's fucked up. But that is done by design. That is done by design. It's done to hype people up. And it's done to not educate people. Because by having educated fans, by having knowledgeable fans, you can't dupe them. You can't pull the wool over their eyes. They know for sure when cheating occurs. But if they don't know, maybe you can get away with it. Maybe you can get away with it. But you know what? Maybe you can't. Because we know. And we're going to call it out. And we're going to make everybody know. And then we're going to show you up for what you are, you dirty, filthy bastards. Anyway, till the next time. See you soon.